And I'm going to start with introductions going around the table, and we're going to wrap up with Lisa. So my name is Dan Spotts, Economic Development Officer with the City of the Dalles, joined by my lovely wife, Michelle, who's going to be taking over for me in about a half hour with this. I have to be in the Dalles, so I'm going to hit the road. And I'm going to go around the table. First off, Lisa Farquharson, our host with the Chamber, is in Washington, D.C. right now. She had a change of schedule and had to drop into a congressional meeting on the Hill, which she's doing right now. And she asked us to take over hosting. So with that, I'm going to go around the Brady Bunch table here, and I'm going to start with Scott. And please introduce yourself and tell us what's going on. Maybe a couple of minutes or less, and then we'll turn it over to Lisa, our guest this morning. Scott.
Okay, I'll make a quick, good morning, everyone. I'm Scott McKay. I am the community liaison for Circles of Care, and that's a nonprofit that connects older adults with volunteers. And then I think that's about it. I keep it short and quick.
Thank you, Scott. Dr. Brian Tuck, as I recall.
Well, Brian Tuck retired, trying to stay nimble like Scott does. So he's my hero.
Thank you, Brian. Corliss?
Good morning, everyone. Corliss Marsh, Habitat for Humanity, Senior Center, and I'll let Rob give that update, and library.
Thank you, Corliss. And David Peters.
Good morning, everybody. Dave Peters, Columbia Cascade Housing, the Columbia Housing Authority. Still have veterans down payment money, and we actually have still down payment money for people buying in Hood River County and City, which we only have 30,000 for those, and that's not going to go very far in Hood River, but you know, if we find the right person, it might work for them. But anyway, zero interest, forgivable loans. So send anybody interested in buying a house our way. Thanks.
Thank you, Dave. Commissioner Brady?
Good morning, everybody. I was first on personal note, I wasn't here last week because I was on the Columbia River, rafting down the Columbia River with Mike Bellinger, Pete Gay, and Bob Kendall. We paddled from Rowena to Astoria. It was 10 days, 140 miles. Got blown off the water one day. It was too rough. So I'm happy to be back. The Columbia Gorge is amazing. From being on the water, it just re-inspired me for all the reasons I love it, to recognize the majesty of the gorge and the river all the way out to the mouth. It gets huge out in the mouth, 7 miles across. It was daunting at that point. But I'm back, and I'll mention to Scott. So as my arms would get tired, I'd look up or down the river, and up and ahead of me was Bob Kendall, who is 84 years old, and this is his 6th trip down the gorge. And so might be a story for age on him. He is amazing. He reminded me of Yoda, Star Wars, because he would just paddle, and I'd be going, and the force moved him down the river with so much ease. It was beautiful to watch. At county commission business yesterday, we had a county commissioner business. We applied for a grant to reestablish the RV park at the old Bert Hodges site. Now we're calling it 154 acres. And so that would be, if that moves, we're moving in that direction. We just started the process, but it gives you a sense of direction there. We also approved purchase of another 4.6 acres. So now it might start be calling the 159 acres. That gives us access, ownership of the entire stretch of Chenoweth Creek from 10th Street down to 10th Street down to 6th Street, or the Highway 30. And that's useful. The Soil Water Conservation District had put in a proposal to do restoration in Chenoweth Creek, and it was turned down because they didn't have access to the whole creek back when it was before. But now that we own that, we can do some collaboration with them and to get that going. And I don't know if you heard, Dan, but we also approved your appointment to the Economic Development Commission.
Thank you, Phil. I did, Kathy did send me that note yesterday, and I appreciate that appointment very much.
Yes. Oh, so do we. Thank you very much for working with that. It'll be great.
Glad to
Thanks.
have you back safe and sound from Lewis and Clark 21st century version.
We did camp on one of the islands where they camp.
Did you really? Oh, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Phil. Kristen Wells.
Hello, thanks for having me. I'm Kirsten Wells. I'm the new coordinator of programming and outreach at the library, and absolutely loving being here and being a part of the community, and feel like I've really found home. We have some very exciting things coming up at the library. I've never seen a library with so many programs going on all the time. One thing I'd like to tell everyone about is our community read in October. If you've never been a part of a community read, it's just a shared reading experience for the entire community, just what the name says. And the book that we're doing is called The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. It's a great book, really for all ages, 9 to 99. Neil Gaiman is a fantastic author. Stardust, Good Omens. He's got a show. One of his books is a show on Netflix right now. American Gods, Coraline. So it's a fantastic book. And we've got an entire month-long celebration of the book and all kinds of programs. So I'd encourage you to get on the library website, subscribe to our newsletter, or on social media and see what's going on at the library.
Thank you very much, and welcome. Welcome to the community too.
Thank you.
And Mr. Rob Garrett.
I'm not sure if you saved the best for last, or it's just how I'm stacked on the Hollywood Squares board here, but
You're on the bottom of Hollywood Squares, Rob. Sorry to
I'm on the top on my picture. I don't know how this works, but
I can move you up there.
Hi, Rob Garrett, Mid-Columbia Senior Center, and my goodness, it's National Senior Center Month. I don't know if you remember that from when we talked a couple weeks ago, so you need to be celebrating senior centers, and I just have the way you can do that this Saturday. We're having a block party down here, so come on down, have a hamburger with us, on us, an Italian soda, a little bag of chips, see what's going on here inside the center, rub elbows with some of the best, like guys like Scott McKay will be there, and those kind of folks will be there, and if you could be there, that would even be better. So come and see what we're doing here and get excited about what happens in the Dalles on this little corner between 9th and 10th on Cherry Heights. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Hey, Rob, what time was that?
Oh, 3 to 6 on Saturday afternoon. And it's just, you just come and go throughout the time. There'll be live music during it. Mark Kendrick's playing his piano, like a piano bar kind of in the background. We'll start serving hamburgers about 3:30-ish until we run out. I think we have 160 hamburgers we can serve. If I sold out on those or gave out or whatever, that would be cool to have 160 people come in the building. I'm hoping for at least half that. That would be really neat. But just a 3-hour period. We have raffles during that time, giving away quilts. We have a quilt raffle going. We have door prizes. We have just, I mean, I think if you name it, we're probably going to be doing it this Saturday. And so it's going to be the peak of our month, and then we can take a break.
Awesome.
Will Scott be doing autographs?
Scott would probably do an autograph, wouldn't you, Scott? He's like the king of seniors. I don't know. He should be.
I missed that, Rob. Something on autographs? You're going to autograph people?
No,
you
Brian
are.
wanted to know if you're going to give autographs, Scott.
Oh, I'll pass.
We'll have an
Sorry,
autograph
Rob.
booth set up just for Scott. If you need to come by, Brian, that'll work out. So bring your book.
I'll be the first of mine.
See you all there.
Thank you all. Thank you all. So I'm going to give a brief update from the economic development angle on the city there. I will be turning this over to Michelle in about a half hour or so. I need to be in the Dalles myself, so I'll hit the road. But you may have seen in the paper $3 million, almost $3 million to the airport. This is for taxiway and South Apron improvements to the runway out there. Thanks to the entire congressional delegation on both sides of the river, it's really cool to have folks working across the river and across the aisle on something of common benefit. This sets the airport up for the training hangar for the college. It's a little, it's a separate project. It's a separate funding stream from what we've been talking about with the hangar, but it is complementary to that, and it helps prepare the airport also for its role in wildfire response, which we've been very grateful for this past summer. So I'm going to introduce Lisa George by starting with a statement of values. Lisa is the Director of Equity, Diversity and Inclusion. Of course, I messed that up. Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at Columbia Gorge Community College. Columbia Gorge Community College is dedicated to promoting an academic and social environment that serves the evolving needs of the vibrant and diverse communities across its district and beyond. The college is student-centered, teaching and learning, socially and economically just organization that is committed to being a critical resource for underserved and marginalized communities. The CGCC commits to fostering an inclusive and equitable climate with programming, instruction, employment practices, community partnerships, and decision-making processes that value individual and group differences. The college is dedicated to the continuous work to eliminate the barriers that perpetuate inequity, oppression, and injustice. And with that introduction, Lisa, take it away.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. It's great to see you all. Corliss, long time no see. I'm so glad to be here today and learn about some of the great things you've been doing. So my name is Lisa AbuAssaly George, and I came to the college last December, I think it was, as the college's first inaugural Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And Dan, thank you so much. You can say those words in any order: equity, diversity, inclusion, inclusion, diversity, and equity. Whatever acronym you want to spell works. And there are more words that go into what I do. Some of them are belonging and social justice, accessibility, lots of things that I promote and try to create the conditions for at the college. Before I had this post at the college, I was the inaugural Multicultural Student Success Coordinator at Mount Hood Community College. I guess people think that I'm good at kicking things off. So I'm really glad to be kicking off your morning too. Before I was at Mount Hood Community College, I was at Portland Community College, where I served in many roles, department chair for the education department. That's the department that prepares teachers to go into K-12. I was sociology faculty. I was faculty development coordinator and community partnerships coordinator. So I think that all of my experience really helps me, kind of aids me in doing all the things that I get to do at the college up here on the hill. I'm going to try and share my screen if possible and show you CGCC's webpage. I think you can all see it. Can you see it okay? Awesome.
You can see it fine, Lisa.
Okay, so when you go into Google and search for CGCC, there's another college that has those initials, but make sure that you find the one that looks like Columbia Gorge Community College. And if you come over here to the menu and scoot down a little bit, you can see my department, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And if you click on that, you'll see 3 main sections of my webpage. I'm also the Title IX coordinator at the college, but those words that you just heard Dan speak in the intro are right here under the college's DEI mission. And this statement was adopted by the CGCC board. Oops. There we go. Last July. So that intro that Dan read is now part of the CGCC governing policies, I guess. If you come out here to resources, I think you might find some things that could be helpful to y'all in your work. So some are very specific to higher ed. One is this Lewis Stokes Alliance for Minority Participation. This is a program that we just partnered up with PSU on, Portland State University, that provides mentorship, scholarships, funding for folks at the college who want to go into STEM majors. That's science, technology, engineering, and math. And it's pretty cool because what it provides mostly is mentorship in the transfer process, in the degree seeking process, and so on. But there are some things that are specific to the college, but also can be useful to the community. A committee of folks that I work with helped to develop this list of resources. We wanted these resources to be kind of, I guess, pertinent to higher ed, but they're not necessarily pertinent to higher ed. And so you might find some readings here that work to support you and what you all do. There are podcasts also, which are less central to higher ed. And there's even a video. Now, earlier I heard about someone floating down the river. It's really cool because we have this video. It's actually a film that covers a tribal fishing family's fight to preserve their way of life on the river. And so having that context, I think all of us having that context in our work can be very helpful. Going to go back and show you also, I led another group of folks that I work with on developing some college-defined terms. And these are all things that you or folks you know or folks you work with may or may not have questions about. You might be maybe drafting a document or creating a policy and, have a wondering, what actually is diversity? Well, you can come to this webpage and see this definition that has been developed right here in the Dalles, kind of central to what we do here on this curve in the river. So some people have some questions about the difference between equality and equity. Well, you can come here and find out what that is if you do have that question. So I won't share the definitions with you now because there are so many of them here, but please feel free to come here, click around, find what you need. It's always here and it's always up. Oh, also, I'm very proud of this thing. I won't talk about it, but I'll just show you. You know how we live in an acronym infused world? Well, if you ever hear an acronym that you don't know, that is specific to diversity, equity, and inclusion work, you can come here and find out more about what those acronyms mean, or folks you work with. So going back to where we started, this also might be relevant to the work that you do. I developed a list of resources for students and student support mostly, who have a DACA status. That is the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. It's an immigration status that is this in-between place where students can inhabit. If students have DACA status, they cannot apply for federal financial aid. They cannot get many scholarships. So I developed this resource page that defines what DACA is, and then provides resources, first of all, that are financial and paying for college. Although students aren't able to apply for federal financial aid, students are able to apply for state financial aid, and that is true in Oregon and Washington. So here are some scholarships also that are available to DACA students. Immigration and legal resources for our students, including the address of the Consulate of Mexico in Portland. And then finally, general resources for our DACA students. So I was really happy to create these resources for the college. Another thing that I do is provide trainings all the time. And I have to be honest with you, this is our busiest week of the year. This is the year before classes start, and everybody is meeting multiple times a week. And I actually have 3 more presentations to give today. So just to give you an idea of how the week is going. So that is basically what I do. I'm going to stop sharing and leave it open for y'all if you have any questions for me. If you have any ideas on how we can partner. Hey, Phil.
Well, you've got a good audience here to practice your first presentation with. Since I'm very glad that you're here. Thank you for all those great resources. I hope or imagine you may have already met Elaine Powery at the Dallas High School. If not, I'd be happy to share her connection. She's directs the Aspire program, which promotes our high school students into colleges, and with a lot of emphasis on students such as DACA students. Have you met her yet?
Can you say the name again?
Elaine Powery.
I would love a connection.
Okay, I'll drop you a link to that, to her webpage, and she has a calendar there that you can connect in next week when she get that. I understand that it's from the tender is overwhelming. Yeah.
Yeah, it probably won't be this week.
Bill, would you mind sending me that contact information as well?
Yep.
For Elaine?
Yes. I'll drop you both her webpage, and you can scroll down to that, and it has her contact information on it.
Great, thank you.
So, Lisa, I have a question. The definitions, how do you source those definitions? I'm just curious about that process because that's a difficult task.
We spent so much time on those definitions. I can't even quantify the hours at this point. We stopped counting. You know what happens when you get together and try to wordsmith things with people? It was that kind of situation. And also, we wanted to make sure to be extremely, extremely precise with our wording, so there wasn't any wiggle room or question, but also any opportunity for people to have misunderstanding around the definitions that could potentially cause harm through that misunderstanding. So we met at least once a week. for at least an hour. And then folks went off and did their own homework and wordsmithing on the documents and the definitions. It really was a labor of love. In some cases, we did look at, for instance, sources at other schools or dictionary definitions, but a lot of the times dictionary definitions weren't what we wanted. So for instance, if you look up equity in the dictionary, it's a different kind of flavor than what we ended up with on that definition. So yeah, it took a lot. It took a lot of patience and a lot of waiting for each other also. It's still growing. We have some work to include on different aspects of gender diversity. Now, one of the things that I do when I teach sociology also, is I always try to partner with a community member to bring my students into the community and the community into the classroom, or community orgs into the classroom. And a few years ago, we partnered with an organization called the Q Center in Portland. And the Q Center asked my class to develop for them tabling literature that was friendly and accessible. It wasn't too academically worded, because they had located in an education that didn't, a neighborhood that didn't have high levels of education. So my class developed an open source, that means anybody can use it, coloring book that describes all the different aspects and dimensions of gender diversity. So we are currently, my committee at CGCC is currently going through all of those definitions to see how we might incorporate those into the book, into the webpage at CGCC. So we're not quite ready yet. As you can tell, there's a lot of discussion, or as you might guess, there's a lot of discussion that might go into that process. That is happening. Yeah, it'll be there soon.
Thank you. Any other questions for Lisa?
Phil here again. Does your office also promote gender equity? I'm thinking of some women close to me who are in STEM fields and have faced difficulties as they moved into that world.
Oh boy, I can relate to that. My daughter is a chemistry major, and she went to a really sweet high school that was small with lots of support. And then in order to major in chemistry, she went to a women's college where she knew she wouldn't face any of that. But then she wanted her graduate degree. So she ended up at a big college. It's a college that is located in the South and has a lot of competitiveness, you know, football culture and a huge department. And she really felt that. And it was emblematic of what was happening out there in the work world. My sister is also a chemist and talks about that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So the short answer to that is yes, definitely. I'm all over it. And I think it's critically important.
Yep.
Part of that is, you know, supporting faculty in some of the kind of preconceived notions and culture that they bring to their classroom. Now at CGCC, our faculty is phenomenal. I can't say enough good things, especially about our STEM faculty. But it might be just, you know, a certain case sometimes of just one word that a faculty member might say that makes a student feel a little less secure in the classroom having to do with gender. So, just mostly talking about it is a great way forward through that.
I think the problem may lie not so much in academia, but in the actual real world workplace where those norms haven't changed as much as we had hoped at this point in time. Similar to you and Phil, I have a daughter, or two daughters actually, that are in the STEM world. And I could talk for hours about the stuff that they've had to endure. So, I'm glad this is being addressed locally at the college, but I think it's a wider systemic issue. And I don't know how to, deal with that really, short of a lawsuit.
Yeah, it's a tough situation because while lawsuits can work, they have reverberations for the person who brings a lawsuit, right? Yeah.
Anybody else?
Well, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go real serious on this for a minute. As commissioner, I attend to political matters. Most people can have the luxury of saying, "Oh, I can leave politics alone," but that's part of my job. And as I'm listening, I was in a really good conversation, just a podcast conversation with pollsters, and looking at what are people of color thinking and feeling. And in the interviews that they were doing, this sounds for a group of white people like mostly here on this screen, out of crazy talk, but the words they would say were afraid of civil war in the United States. Now, civil war for us we think of blue and gray, but in this century, what civil war looks like is targeting people of color with gun violence. And that's a fear that people of color would live with, because the political situation that we're in has made them targets. So the work of DEI is doing the right things, but it's also in a fraught landscape here where we're at right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the work is also being used to divide people sometimes with words. And so my main strategy is to talk to as many people as possible and to really boil down this work as kindness. It's just kindness. In the end, it's just being kind to each other. I think that can sometimes disarm a little bit of the fraughtness and artificially imposed division. Now, are we all ever going to be the same and have the same thoughts and act the same way? No, of course not. But if we are kind to each other, run our businesses in kind ways, and the golden rule, treat each other the way you want to be treated, or the platinum rule, find out how others want to be treated and treat them that way, then we'll all be better off. And that's really at the center of this work, I think.
Yeah, I think those are really great words to try to live by. I was thinking of that actually yesterday. I live in White Salmon. I was driving to the Dalles, and I can just get really upset with other drivers. And I just thought, I need to practice just being kind to people that cut me off, or whatever. But there's just no end to the level that you can kind of assimilate that into your behavior, I think.
Especially on I-84.
Yeah, Anyone else? Any other thoughts or questions? All right.
The, I lived in Venezuela for 9 years as a Catholic missionary. And we came back to the Dalles partly because it's my hometown and partly because there's a Latinx community here in a rural setting. But it's very hard to get outreach into that community. And so if I wish you patience and if I can be of any help with some connections, I'd be happy to through the Catholic Church.
Oh, Phil, thank you so much. I know that that is an area of connections that I need to tap into. So I will very soon be calling on you. Probably not this week, though.
Well, I have one other question. Because you're here today at the at this meeting, government affairs. Do you go out and talk to like Rotary and other groups in the community?
My work will be shifting a bit to do that more. We have some community liaisons that do that work at the college. As you know, we had a really great one at the college that has another job now. But my first order of business was to be mostly internally facing in terms of training and gathering folks from the community to inform the college on our ideas around DEI and serving our Latino Hispanic populations, our Native populations, our populations of color, our gender diverse populations, really thinking about putting a service to the students at the center of the work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes perfect sense. Good place to start, right? Start at the beginning.
Thank you. Thanks for that number and email, Phil. I appreciate it a lot. Awesome.
All right. Anyone else? I'll say last call. It's not a bar, but all right, everyone. Dan said you saw sometimes end early, so I think this is going to be one of those days. And I want to thank you, Lisa, for joining us this morning, and thank you all for being here. And until next week, enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone, for having me. See you soon. Oh, for fuck's sake, come on. You got it. You got it.